Okay, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome everyone to the NORA.startup kickoff. Within the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics, we have this broad collaboration between Norwegian universities and research institutes, NORA. My name is Klaus Pettersen, and I am the lucky and privileged guy leading this collaboration within this exceptionally interesting and fascinating field. NORA is a collaboration between 7 universities and 2 research institutes in Norway. NORA's vision from our strategy made public earlier this year. You can download that from our web pages, NORA.ai. Our strategy says that our vision is international relevance and excellence in AI research, education, and innovation for Norwegian universities and research institutions. So research, education, and innovation. NORA.startup is an important tool to address innovation within artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics. I will try to be brief and to the point in the information today. Here, let me show you the program at a glance. So I will introduce all the speakers. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, so you can ask questions. We will try to answer them in the panel discussion, which starts at 16:25. So we will unfortunately not have time to answer the questions after each talk. So first, the big question. Morten Irgens, are you here? Has Morten Irgens arrived, Ivan?
He's just coming in. Please just give us 10 seconds.
10 seconds. While Morten Irgens is trying to come in and put up his computer, I will present him. And it's an honor to present Morten. He has been working with artificial intelligence, research, education, and innovation for most of his life. During the years, he has had so many roles in Norwegian academia, and specifically in artificial intelligence. He still has many roles, both at OsloMet and Christiania University College. He is also one of the CLARE initiators and in the CLARE core team. And he is also on the board of NORA. Today, he will open this kickoff for NORA.startup with the talk title, AI, Norway, and Entrepreneurship, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Morten, the big question, are you here and able to share your screen?
Yes, I'm here. And I am probably able to share my screen. Let's try.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Share screen. So just give me a second. Okay, hold on. I need to, one little problem.
While Morten is setting up his system, I can just short inform you that Morten will unfortunately not be able to join the panel debate. So if you have a question for Morten, use the Q&A button while he is talking, and we will try to take 1 or 2 questions after his talk. For the other speakers, we will wait until the panel debate to answer the questions. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, that you allow me to share my thoughts, and I will start with saying a couple of things about myself, because I'm not sure, probably you don't know much about me, but since I started in AI very long time ago in 1987, and my work was in automated reasoning in formal logic, in automation of logic, and then I moved to the States and then to Canada, and I did a PhD there. And when I had finished that, I started a company. So I was an entrepreneur, and this company exists. But hasn't gone to an exit, which pains me a lot, since I spent 8 years of my life with almost zero salary, at least for the first years. So I would love to see an exit, but I learned a lot from establishing a company that is doing well and is selling decision support system to the oil and gas sector in the world, all over. When I moved back to Norway 10 years ago, and I ended up working in academia, in developing institutions. This is what I'm doing. And I also, as Klaus was saying, I took the initiative to establish CLARE, and also I took the initiative to establish NORA, actually. And it was done at the same time for a particular reason. And the reason was to mobilize European AI strength and mobilize Norwegian AI strengths and weight in order to utilize whatever we can do in Europe. But today I'm going to talk about some reflections on AI and entrepreneurship. And it says the good, the bad, and the ugly here. And that's only because Klaus was bugging me for such a long time about coming up with a title. And this was the best I could come up with. The AI is really a transformative technology. It transforms markets. It transforms products. It transforms businesses. It transforms the society we live in. And for that reason, the classical, traditional way of looking at innovation has, for a long time ago, been thrown out with the bathwater. Long time ago. A classical push model, where you're basically looking at universities as coming up with the great ideas, and then you have a technology transfer office, and just the name in itself is interesting. Technology transfer that gives the great thinking and results from academia to a very grateful industry sector that monetizes it, turns the results into products and services. This is not the way it works. This is a classic triple helix thinking. You have industry, academia, and then you have the government in the middle that invests in academia in order to create this transfer. It's not the way it works. It's more complex. It's a more overall complex ecosystem. And this ecosystem has at least two more components, which are startups, entrepreneurs. That's not industry, entrepreneurs, and investors, venture capital. At least those two in addition. Now, I worked for a couple of years with a project at Oslo Met, looking at how the Oslo area, the greater Oslo area, could improve their ability to create value from entrepreneurship. And I dug through hundreds of reports and lists and analysis about Norway as a value creating nation, about the Oslo region as the same, compared to other regions and other areas. And in that project, we learn a few things. And if you do this, it turns out that Norway Well, from a global perspective, it's not too bad to be number 18 on a list of the most innovative countries in the world, or the value creation from technology or whatever. These lists are, whether it's this or that, Norway usually comes in just around between number 15 and 20. But Sweden, Denmark, Finland, they usually beat us. And they're very similar countries. So why is this? Interesting thing is that these lists are created by accumulating a lot of indicators. You're accumulating them up to some level. And it turns out that a lot of these indicators are input indicators. These indicators that show what you're putting into the system. So when we do that, if we only look at the input indicators, Norway is doing much better. We are actually, investing a lot. But if you look at the output indicators, nothing much comes out compared to other countries. There is not the same results from all the efforts we put in as other countries get from the effort they put in. So if you look at investments by country, why does Sweden get so much more out of their investments than we do? If you look at if you compare Oslo, Helsinki, Copenhagen, and Stockholm, it's very clear differences. What is the problem? And the problem is that there is sand in the machinery. If you look at the innovation entrepreneurial ecosystem in Norway, and you look at it as a machine, and we put a lot of efforts into it. We educate people, we invest in startups, we do A, B, and C. And then what comes out is not that much. There must be something wrong with this machine. There's something we do wrong. And what are those things? Well, we have a weak R&D level in business and industry. We score low on that all over. We have a fragmented innovation ecosystem. They are not connected very well, the different components in the ecosystem. We have, you can see that public-private collaboration, collaborative publication is very different in the Oslo and Akershus region compared to Copenhagen. Why is this? This is an indication that we don't collaborate enough between academia and industry. But industry itself has low R&D level. There are low deal flows to innovation-driven entrepreneurs, IDEs. Academia scores low on innovation indicators compared to comparable economies. And all this indicates lower collaboration between the parts of the ecosystem. Now, there is a concern with the academia's funding model in Norway, and this is a reflection from OECD. What is happening in Norway is the reflection from the OECD. You have if you look at the funding model for academia, you have an enormous base funding, which means that it doesn't matter what you do. You get 60% of your funding from the ministry regardless. This is why the University of Oslo could reduce their number of students from 34,000 to 28,000 and without having a big hit in funding. But the incentives that are result-based funding is all about educational incentives and research incentives. There are no innovation incentives in academia. And if I go to an associate professor, førsteamanuensis, and I ask the person, I would like you to work on this fantastic, interesting project with these companies. There is no research component to it now, but we are building something that, and the person she would tell me, ask me, how does that help me become a professor? And it's hard to say it will help you. It's easier to say, actually, it won't help you, given the funding model. There is, if you just look at the capital of Norway, like it's one of the few capitals in Europe without a technology university, which is in itself really a struggle in order to create more innovation coming out from AI and new technologies. Because one of the things we really know works is when knowledge institutions, universities, and businesses are geographically very close in the same city. I will get back to that, but in addition, we need that region to be coordinated. And you know, Oslo is one thing, Oslo Kommune, Oslo municipality. The functional city Oslo is something else. The Oslo urban area is yet something else. But we have decided in Norway to, when we changed the regional structure, to put our Oslo's neighboring municipalities not as a part of Oslo, but as a part of Viken. And it really hampers coordination of innovation measures from the two administrative units. And we do that everywhere. We have a problem with organizing us around value creation. Now, missing competence. Yes, this is the percentage of companies that have failed to hire a person with the right competence. And in Oslo, we see that 23% of the companies either didn't hire or hired a person with lower qualification. This was in 2019. And we see this all across Norway. Actually, in 2019, there were 6,500 unfilled positions for engineers and ICT specialists. We have relatively few people with higher education in Norway. This might surprise you because we hear a lot that Norway, people in Norway has a high education. We rank high on the indicators for that. But that is those indicators, they measure everything from bachelor and up. But if you only look at master and PhD level, we educate comparatively to the population, we educate fewer people on those levels than the average in the OECD. And you know, there's a lot of countries that pull that average down. This is not good. We have relatively few top scientists and we invest very little in them. And we have relatively few serial entrepreneurs with competence in scaling up. So we're lacking competence. We can also reflect on whether the governance model for higher education disfavor innovation. It's hard for a university to make a decision, but investing, for instance, in a ecosystem participation, if that means spending money that the faculties would use for other things. It's a very democratic governance model, and it is stopping this type of structural development of the universities. This is, of course, a highly sensitive discussion topic. Look, also, I think that it's time that Norway's capital gets a technology university. This is the distribution of students in engineering and technology in Norway. And it is interesting. We know that we need to increase the number of engineering and technology students in Norway. We know that. One thing we need to do is to look at where we're going to have that increase, if we at all will get it. We know that some regulations disfavor innovation. Option taxation, pension regulations that hinders job market mobility, and so on. And we know that the continuing education system is underdeveloped. And we know there are too few companies that scale. So that's really it. And when I know created a list of 10 points that are concerning, that seems concerning, and it might be that some of them we have been mistaken about, we don't understand them well enough. The next point is to put forward the 10 points that addresses this. And of course, we will not do it now because we don't have the time, so I will just thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Morten, for, as always, very interesting reflections. I don't see any questions for you, and we are also a little bit behind schedule, so I think you will just move to the next speaker, but thank you very much, Morten.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Freya Jørgensen. I have to say that starting up NORA.startup has been a pleasure. The initiative behind NORA.startup was from Christian Bjerke in Gründergarasjen. And thank you very much for that initiative, Christian. After this idea was initiated, Freya started working really hard together with NORA to get NORA.startup up and running. Together with our steering group, she has done a fantastic job. She is innovation manager at Seamless Gründergarasjen. So the next speaker is Freya Jørgensen with her talk, What is NORA.startup?
Great. Let's see if I can share my screen here as well. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Klaus, and good afternoon to everyone else who is tuning in. We are really excited to see so many people meeting up on today's kickoff, and we are looking extremely much forward to building the NORA Startup Network in the time to come. As you heard, my name is Freya Jørgensen. On a daily basis, I work as innovation manager for Similar Research Laboratory, which is one of the 9 partner institutions in NORA. And more specifically, I work for our tech startup incubator, Gründergarasjen. And besides this, I have been given the honor to lead the steering group of NORA.startup, who I will be introducing you to at the end of my talk. During my talk, I will let you know what NORA.startup is, who the network is for, how or why you should get engaged, and how you can do so. So let's start by what is NORA.startup? NORA.startup is NORA's newly established innovation network, as Klaus was saying, focusing on research-based innovation, with the main goal being to facilitate closer connection and interaction between the research and startup environment in Norway within the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics. Our aim, is to build a knowledge-based network where we will facilitate for dialogue, exchange of experiences and competence, and for research and development collaboration between startup companies, the research community, and the business sector. What makes the NORA Startup Network so unique is its strong tie to NORA's large academic network, featuring several of Norway's leading universities and research institutions, whilst at the same time keeping a focus on innovation and collaboration with businesses. This is a network built for and by both the research and the startup community within the mentioned fields, hence also the reason why the steering group represents both sides. Naturally, given this, quality rather than quantity is more important to us, and the NORA Startup Network will have its emphasis on professional competence, expertise, development and application of the mentioned technologies. So, who is NORA Startup meant for? We chose to host today's kickoff as an open event to anyone within the fields who are interested to learn more about us. Some of our future events will probably also be arranged on an open basis, whilst others are specifically or will be specifically tailored towards our approved members. More specifically, to emphasize on this, the NORA Startup Network is considered to be for the following groups of people. First of all, Norwegian startups which develop in-house technological solutions of their own within machine learning, AI, and/or robotics, and which also intend to have a focus on research and development projects. Secondly, we would like to reach out to researchers and students in this field who are interested in startup companies, collaboration with entrepreneurs, or maybe even would like to start their own research-based company someday. For both these groups, you ought to naturally have an interest in bringing both research and innovation closer together, and a desire to build networks and potential new collaborations with talented researchers and startups in the field. Lastly, we call upon other relevant parties, such as incubators or clusters, working with companies in the field and having a high degree of expertise among their members, preferably also from environments with a certain experience within R&D projects. The same goes for established businesses or investors who are concerned with technological solutions and collaboration within the mentioned fields. Okay, so the next thing you might ask is, what's in it for me? Bringing me to why get engaged with NORA.startup. The main reasons are easy. First of all, you will get access to a strong professional network within the field, both from the research side and the business side, and also on a national basis. This will give you a unique opportunity to expand your network, share challenges and issues you might have with a broader group of experts, and establish new exciting collaborations, which you might benefit from in the future. Then there are financial benefits, not least through the potential of new R&D projects and what that brings with it. But also, I can mention that NORA is working on making computer power and computer hosting more accessible for both startups and researchers within the NORA startup networks where this might be possible. Eventually, the NORA startup network might also be able to set you in touch with interested investors or potential customers. And based on today's attendee list, I do know that there are already several representatives from these two groups. So that's very exciting. Then we have customized events. NORA.startup will adapt our activities and our events to the needs of our members. Our first members will also be able to get the unique opportunity to directly contribute to which direction NORA.startup should take further, as we are currently in a very early stage of this project. Lastly, I can also mention that especially for startups, a membership in the NORA Startup Network will work as a quality stamp, since we have a selective admission process. I'll get back to that later. And naturally, relevant news and milestones achieved by our members, that being startups or researchers, can also be shared through NORA's channels, thus giving you some extra visibility. So, how do you get engaged with NORA.startup? We have two application forms on our websites, and you can see the link to the website on the slide here. One form is for startups, and the other form is for the category other, which means researchers, students, investors, clusters, and so forth, who either seek membership or want to get engaged in other ways. Startups and incubators apply as a whole, but list one contact person and can themselves decide who from the team gets engaged in the various activities and events, whilst researchers, students, and others sign up individually. It's up to yourselves how frequently you would like to attend our events and activities, but of course we do hope that many will choose to actively participate and contribute along the way. And let me mention that this is naturally a golden opportunity for you to introduce yourselves, your work, perhaps a concrete challenge or technical issue that you might have and that you wish to discuss with a broader group of experts within the field, and gain valuable feedback in return. Maybe also new collaborations. Our upcoming events this fall, and due to the current situation, these will all also most likely be online, is first of all a member-specific meeting on November the 3rd at 3 to 5 p.m., so the same time as today. Here we will be following up on today's discussion, but we will be looking more concretely and specifically at the needs and wishes of the first members. So this is, again, the golden opportunity where our first members can get to directly contribute to NORA.startup's path forward. And we will also, from October 16th, be starting to arrange bi-weekly webinars from, I believe, from 2 to 3 p.m. on Fridays. And these will be led by Morten Goodwin, who you will be hearing from shortly. Based on former questions, we'd also like to mention that currently you don't pay for the membership in NORA.startup itself. However, further down the road, certain events might require a participation fee, and other more established parties besides startups and individual researchers or students might be asked to pay a symbolic membership fee. For incubator and cluster environments who choose to get engaged, this can also be in kind through, for instance, contributing to hosting 1 to 2 events a year in collaboration with us. And for more information and further questions, you can of course see our websites or get in touch with us on the listed email address. And if you have any pop-up questions along the way here today or during the coffee break, please share them in the Q&A section, and we will try to follow up on them as best as we can. By that, I think I'd just like to say thank you so much for your attention. And if you find yourself in the right target group, sign up to get in touch with this unique network, possibilities for R&D collaborations, and to attend activities and events within the field tailored to your specific needs. Thank you very much. And I would like to use my last minutes on screen here to introduce the current NORA steering group. Besides Claes and myself, we have been lucky in gathering an amazing group of engaged people from both sides of these environments. And NORA.startup would not have been able without the tremendous support and wise input and effort from the rest of these people. So I'd please like to give the word first to Anita Schjøll Brede.
Let's see if are you able to see me? Because I can't see myself. Yes,
Sure.
Good. Hi, everyone. My name is Anita. I'm the CEO and co-founder of iris.ai. I'm super excited to be in the steering group. Our reason for participating in the steering group and in the network at large is that we're a research-focused startup or a research-based startup. We've done a lot of collaborations with academia, some of it very, very successful, some of it not very successful for a variety of reasons. And I would like to kind of shift the chances of successful collaborations, both for our sake, for other startup sakes, but also for the academic side's sake. So that's our reason for getting involved.
Thank you very much, Anita. Next, I would like you to meet Lars Selsos.
Hello, can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Boost.ai, mainly with a technical background specializing in machine learning. We joined the steering group because we've already done some work with academia and looking into interesting opportunities to collaborate more in the future.
Thank you very much, Lars. Next up, we have Sondre Pedersen.
Good afternoon. My name is Sondre Pedersen. I work for Startup Lab, which is one of Norway's largest tech incubators located in Oslo and Bergen, where I am responsible for our data science initiative. So this goes hand in hand in what we do on a daily basis. And our goal is that through NORA.startup, we can help foster more successful startup companies within AI and machine learning.
Thank you very much, Sondre. Next one up is Lars Eilo Bongo.
Hello, so I'm Lars Eilo Bongo. I'm a professor in health technology at the Department of Computer Science at the University of Tromsø. I'm also the co-founder of 2 startups, and I hope that NORA.startup will increase the interest among Norwegian students to both do startups and join startups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lars. Then we have Kari Marvik.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I'm Kari Marvik. I'm heading a research group in NORS called Autonomous Systems and IoT, which is part of the technology department in NORS. We are involved in different research projects with technologies like AI, machine learning, autonomous system, drones, smart sensors, measurement and observation systems, and so on, for various applications and markets, partnering with all from startup companies to larger enterprises. In some cases, we also decide to establish our own spin-off companies from these activities. In particular, I find this interface between innovation and research very interesting. I'm looking forward to this NORA startup network.
And thank you to Kari. Last but not least, we have Morten Goodwin.
Hello, yes, my name is Morten Goodwin, and I'm a professor in ICT at the University of Agder, and I'm in the leadership of CARE, Center for Artificial Intelligence Research. So I've not co-founded any company at all, but I've been involved with several startups. And the main reason I want to be part of NORA Startup, and the main reason I am part of NORA Startup, is that I see the need for AI in many places, but I also see the lack of understanding of what AI can do. Some people say, I want to pour 2 liters of AI on my company to make it innovative. And that might be good for AI researchers, but the reality is something different and something much more fantastic that we can really enable in collaboration with academia and companies.
Thank you for the ending, good, wise ending point there, Morten. Again, I just want to thank this group of amazing people for contributing and making NORA Startup happen. We are really looking forward to continuing this journey, also hopefully together with several of you here today. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much to you and Freya and all the great work you do with NORA Startup. So I hope it's now also clear for startup companies and researchers and others how you could become a member. We will now go on with 4 talks, all with different perspectives on innovation and collaborations between researchers, startups, and investors. The first talk is from Morten Goodwin, Professor Morten Goodwin from UiA, University of Agder. He has been working with innovation and closely with industry for many years, although he's still young, below 40, I heard, Morten. Today's talk is titled The Stay List, an example of a good collaboration. And Morten, congratulations with becoming a professor recently.
So thank you. Hopefully you can now see my screen and hear me. Yes, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So the idea, what I want to present is an example of a good collaboration between academia and companies. We call this the Stylist. So this is a project that is funded by the Research Council of Norway through the BIA, Brukerstyrt Innovasjonsarena project. And it is a collaboration between CARE, University of Agder, and a company that is called Fjong. And Fjong is a company that works with fashion. And when you see me, you probably think, oh, this guy must be very much into fashion. But the truth is, I'm not at all. I don't care about fashion at all, but I care about the AI challenges that the fashion industry can help me work with. So I would like to just briefly talk about the challenges that Fjong saw and how they said, this should be really solved with AI competency. And we need a collaboration between us as a company, startup company, and the academic experience that you can get through this type of Research Council of Norway project. So Fjong, a small company in Oslo, what they do is they rent out clothes. And it was the idea by Sigrun Syverud to do that. She thought there's all these opportunities for renting out a car through Uber, renting out an apartment through Airbnb. So why are we buying clothes, all of us? And she said maybe we can rent systems to each other, because in today's system it is so that most of us buy clothes. Some of us buy more clothes than others. I don't buy too many, but sometimes I do. And when I worn them for a couple of times, years maybe. Sometimes I grow out of them for some reason or another, I don't know why, and then I throw them away. That's the general trend. And it turns out that that is the trend for many people. They buy clothes, they wear them, and they have a lot of clothes in their closet, and then they throw them away after some time. And that is not really sustainable. That is a bad part of the clothing industry. Making new clothes, watching or not reusing, not reselling clothes costs a lot for the environment. And it's even part of the United Nations Sustainability Goals, goal number 12, which means that we should all work for a responsible consumption and production. So the clothing industry, the fashion industry, does not work in that way mainly. So the idea is that instead of buying clothes, each of us, we can buy some, and then we can share the clothes we have. So whenever I want my summer clothes, or I fancy a new types of shoes or something like that, I can rent it out, is the idea. And then the same type of clothes can be shared by many people. So that is Sigrun's idea. And of course, that means that a system would work so that you have, for example, a website or an app where you go in and you say, I want to rent this type of clothes. I'm much more into the sport things. I like sporty clothes, or I'm more into stylish, fancy dresses, that type of thing. And then you, in the app, you choose to rent that, subscribe to that type of system. And already now you can go and subscribe to the Fjong service if you want. And then of course, the clothes is brought to the woman. It is only females so far. So, or at least only women clothes. And then you pay to Fjong and they make money by renting out. And then they pay some to the one who rent out also. So that is the business model. So that instead of you buying clothes, you rent out. And then the situation is then, so why do you need AI for that? So there's already stores you can buy clothes from. Amazon is well known, many others are well known. Why do you need a new AI system for that to be the case? Well, it turns out there are two problems that are not really solved in today's industry. And one of them is what is called a recommendation system. So most systems today, they have online stores, they have a recommendation system, but it's based on massive amounts of data. So when a shoe company says that if you buy this shoe, you will also buy the other shoe, something like that, then that is based on a vast amount of data. But when you only rent out clothes, you will have only 1 or 2 examples of each clothing item, and the recommendation system is not really built for that type of system. So we need a completely new AI to solve recommendation systems when the number of clothes in your department is much more narrow. So one part is there is a lack of recommendation systems out there. So there needs to be an AI for that. And the other part is the need for models to have when you have such a system. So if you buy clothes from, let's say, Hennes & Mauritz or any other store, the system is that you go to a website and you see a model with some sort of clothes, and of course the model is paid to wear the clothes and take pictures, etc. And if you think of that you have only one example of each clothes, you cannot really hire, I don't know, thousands of models to take pictures every day, because that's not sustainable. So you need some other way to do it. So there's really these two problems. One is a recommendation system and how to present the clothes in a good way so that it's appealing to the customers who want to buy it. And that is what BIA is supposed to, the BIA project is supposed to solve. So it's a fairly big project. It has, the total budget is 44 million, I believe, and 16 million of that is funding. So that it means that you have to do some own contribution, which is quite common. And it is, we as academic people, what we get out of it is that we get some researchers, PhDs and postdocs that can really solve some of the big problems that we're talking about. the recommendation system, and the generation of fake models, if you like. So not only will this project make a system for Fjong, but we're also on the way to automating away the supermodel, fashion model. We don't want that anymore because that can be done completely by AI. So models will lose their job when this project is finished because we will successfully replace them. So how does it work? Well, the project is early in its phase, but part of it is a very fancy and well-known technique that has taken the AI world by storm, called generative models, sometimes called GANs. And it is two AIs that are in competition with each other to make new images, that type of thing. So many of you have probably seen things like this person does not exist, or some fake people that is being drawn by AI. So that is one of the systems that we want to enable. So a challenge with these systems today is that we do not have much control of what is being generated. In technical terms, we don't really have control of what is called the latent space. That is the representation of clothes or people or whatever is being generated. So when you have this type of GAN models, generative models, it is a competition between AI that wants to make a new picture and one that needs to detect that the other one is actually making a real model. Very good technique, but you have very, very little control of what you're doing. That is a challenge. And if you want to make fake models with fake clothes in an app, of course you want control. You don't want suddenly to wear a different outfit than you want to present. So part of our work is to make sure that you can take a picture of a cloth or somehow inform the system of what clothes that model should wear and then make the model by scratch from fake. So we have all of these type of systems, type of clothes. So these are examples of clothes that you can rent from Fjong. And you will now see some of the first examples of clothes being artificially put on artificial models through the system. So here you see some clothes that are available from Fjong to be rented, and then you can see that we put those on a fake model. So the model does not look perfect by any means, but it shows that you're able to take some of those clothes that are real and put it on top of a fake model so that you replace the model completely. And that saves a lot of money because we don't want to hire these supermodels to do the system. And what we see is that since we are able now to control the latent space, also control what we generate, we can really shift some of the models. We can say that we want to look at that model, but with that type of clothing. And that is actually the first time that is being done in this controllable way through this project. And here you can see example of 4 models. So I think the top one is a failed case. It didn't really work out, but the other ones are correct cases where things worked out. And the idea is that we want to say that we should look at this model, but with a different style of clothing. So here you see where you change the model, you can say that you can change it from that type of dress to shorts of some sort, or that type of dress to a jacket of some sort. And in practice, you can then generate, not perfect, but very good models with clothes that comes from the industry. So you can, this is my last example. You can take then this type of clothes, and you can say, I want to see this in a natural way through the app, and paste it on a model like that. This shows that the collaboration between Fjong, which is a startup company, a fairly small one, who has a certain problem, says that they think the solution through that is through a collaboration with academia, and is through a collaboration with an AI research group. And then we together applied for funding from BIA, from Forskningsrådet. We got a lot of funding, and we were able to hire very talented people that we can actually focus in a 3-year project on these type of hard problems, so that it not only helps me as a researcher write a lot of papers and things that I like to do, but also helps the company young make money and have solutions that really, really work for them so that they can save their world in their own way. Thank you. And I think the idea is that we have questions at the end, right, Gus?
Yes, Morten, thank you very much for a great presentation, and also, which also shows a good collaboration between academia and startups. You said you were not too interested in fashion, but I have this image is from less than 1 week ago, so it proves that you're wrong. I think you're really interested, Morten.
Yeah, it might be, but you can see even so. I'm in the middle, but I noticed later that I wore 2 pairs of glasses, both the sunglasses and the normal one. And if that's a fashion statement, then I'm corrected. Yes, thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Morten. Within AI, machine learning and innovation, the top 3 companies in the world are typically Google, IBM, and Baidu, according to the Fast Company World's Most Innovative Companies ranking. However, in 2017, an interesting company was ranked number 7 in the world for speeding up scientific research by surfacing relevant data. This was iris.ai. The next speaker is Anita Schjøll Brede, CEO and co-founder of iris.ai and a member of NORA.startup's steering group. Her talk is titled Building a Research-Based Startup Outside an Established Research Environment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I hope everyone can see my screen all right. I'll take about 10 minutes to walk through this. These are just some of my reflections about this topic. I'll give you a very brief introduction to who we are and what we're working on, and then some reflections. And I'm really looking forward to, in the NORA startup community, to continue having these dialogues and learn from each other, because these are just our experiences from our perspective. We've spent the past 5 years building, yes, an award-winning AI engine for scientific text understanding, as we call it. Fast Company being one of them. We were also we were a semi-finalist in the X Prize, where our algorithms and approaches and models were thoroughly vetted by experts. So we've built some cool stuff. In general, what we're working on is of course natural language processing. Some natural language generation and machine vision had to be part of it as well. We have a published paper on with an approach we call WISDOM, a word importance-based similarity of documents metric, WISDOM. We also work on, we work on similarity of text pieces, causality, compositionality, etc., all on scientific text, which means research papers, patents, etc. Some topics of our current research is around spherical word embeddings, abstractive summarization, table location, row column detection, a number of different areas like that. So it's things that haven't been done before, things that are incredibly complicated when you deal with scientific text, and it's a lot of fun. And so when I say we're a research-based startup, I mean it. We have to do research to solve some of the challenges we are solving. I also want to point to our team here. You can see that of our team of 20 people, because we're not that big, we actually have 5 research engineers plus our CTO, who is also a researcher. So we have our ratio of kind of like PhDs to non-PhDs is really, really high for a startup only a few years old with 20 people. On the right here, you also see some of the universities that we have successfully collaborated with, and that is anything from kind of an intern, a master thesis student, all the way to a full-blown research project. Notably, as I was writing down some of our collaboration partners from the academic side, I noticed there are no Norwegians there. So that's a challenge. We actually, and I'll get back to this story at the end, but we actually did try, and it didn't work out very well. I won't name and shame anyone, but we have some successes or a lot of successes in research collaboration. We also have funding, among other, from BIA as well, with quite a few million to develop some of our tools further. So we just started one of our projects in May. So that's you know, our research credentials, I guess. A little bit more about us. We were founded in 2015 at Singularity University, which is definitely not a research institution, although it's called a university. We have a Norwegian operating company, so we call ourselves Norwegian, though we are an entirely cross-European team, and our client base is cross-European. We raised about 3.5 million euros in public and private funding, so some investors and some research grants. And then yes, we've had some successes in winning some awards, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is building really cool tools for academics and researchers to do better literature reviews, to extract key data from documents like patents. You know, we work also towards the chemical industry now to build some more industry focus, so industry research focused tools. And that's really all I'm going to say about what we do, because here are some of my reflections of, you know, being a startup that is heavily dependent on research, but not being able to say, well, we were started at Stanford University and or we were started at NTNU and like we don't have that credential. So here are some of the challenges with that. So the first topic is around credibility and acceptance. Essentially, it is a lot harder to prove that the technology works. Not that the technology is any harder to prove in itself, but usually what we find is because we don't have kind of accredited researchers already working as a, you know, at least a postdoc, if not a, you know, higher at a university, we find that we have to like prove it even more. For obvious reasons, perhaps, we're not in that system, but we do have to work harder to prove our tech. We've found that getting published, which we have several open access research papers published, but it is harder for us to gain that acceptance. And again, I'm not going to go into the whole discussion of whether privately funded research is more, you know, less credible, and there's definitely, you know, things to discuss there, which I totally see. But for a small startup selling to academics and researchers, having that credibility and acceptance is important, and it's been a little bit of an extra struggle, I think, to be able to do that. We also find it with collaboration partners. We definitely have a lot of great collaboration partners in academia, and the more, you know, different universities we've worked with, the better kind of relationships we can build with others as well. But we do find that there's a little bit of a skepticism, and that's part of why I'm excited to be part of NORA. So to see, you know, can we build better funnels? Can we build better systems of credibility and acceptance for, you know, for startups that are actually doing some really nifty research, to see, you know, can we build the potential for building credibility in a different way. When it comes to the research itself, we don't have, you know, we're not embedded inside of an academic institution where we have, at least to a certain degree, access to those top researchers at that institution. We have to, you know, ask very nicely. Sometimes we'll get help, a lot of times not. So that's a downside of not being kind of, you know, from an academic institution. When it comes to talent, you know, attracting PhDs and postdocs are harder, especially within machine learning. It is hard to attract machine learning and AI talent, but more so, again, when you're not, you know, we can't give anyone a PhD or a postdoc for their work with us. We have collaboration partners that can do it, but it's more cumbersome. Finally, on this is more tricky side, the financing, it took us years to get our first research grant. We have been doing research from day one. We've had PhD and postdoc level researchers doing research from day one, but it took us years to build the credibility to actually get a research grant. It also, and when in terms, you know, in terms of the financing or the financial situation, we're also not an insider at the universities that we collaborate with, which has led to situations where, you know, we've started something that we have funding for, funding runs out, and because we are not the ones at this academic institution, we don't have any say on whether the project is actually continued, which has been an issue in the past. So those are some of the ones, and I want to mention this last one as well. I mean, we have gotten questions from investors about, well, why do you need researchers? Can't you just, like, researchers are expensive. Can't you just fire them and just sell your product. And so, you know, I think when you don't stem from academia, when you're not like, well, we are, you know, part of the research community, maybe it would change, maybe not, but we've found that with a few investors that are hesitant to invest in a company that employs 6 PhDs. So that's kind of some of the challenges we see by like standing a little bit on the outside, not having, you know, a tech transfer office and not having like an academic community solidly as our core starting point. However, we're not founded at a university, which means attracting interns, master students, people who don't really fit the academic mold, but that still, you know, hold a master's or a PhD and are really incredibly bright. That is a lot easier, or it is very easy for us to attract those kinds of people. At the same time, on the research side, we're not really tied to any one particular research group's way of thinking about a problem. So we get to, we believe, to a much larger degree, free ourselves from like, well, this is how we do it here. And we can, you know, free ourselves from that. And as you see, because we have so many collaborations, we get a variety of different input to our research team and can then pick and choose a lot more freely. And I know this is a touchy subject sometimes, but there are no research politics interfering with what we do. There are no, you know, principals at the university. There are no politicians putting out directions. We get to do what we want to do without any department politics, you know, interfering to larger or smaller degrees with that. Finally, on the financing, while it's harder to get research financing, we are eligible for a larger variety of it, which is very exciting. So in multiple countries, you know, both business and tech, etc. And this is what I think is really important. We've been forced to think about users and revenues from day one. We've had scalability on a different level because we had to. So at the beginning, you know, when we first started, we designed the very, very first iteration of our product, and our CTO said, well, I mean, with you know, the research and the development we had to do, this is going to take us at least 12 months. And I looked at him and I'm like, we don't have 12 months. What can we do in 3? And we had to like rethink all along how we did it. And that's something that if you're in, you know, in an academic environment where you might have your funding already, right? You can start with a research project, you can spin it out to a company later. You're not forced in the same way to think about what about the users, what about your clients, how are you going to make money from the start, which has its pros and its cons. And finally, we don't necessarily have to deal with tech transfer offices, and that was, and I'm not gonna name and shame anyone, but we did very, very early on have some lovely conversations with some brilliant researchers at a Norwegian academic institution. This was, you know, 6 to 12 months into the company's life, and we really hit it off. It was going really well. They developed some you know, researched their way to and developed some really cool tech that would fit really nicely into what we were doing. And we kind of invited for a collaboration, and, you know, we'd had, you know, hours and hours of talks. And at the end of the day, they were just going to check in with their tech transfer office just to make sure that everything was cool and we could start this collaboration. And they did. And the TTO said, oh, no, you don't want to give away any ownership to a startup. You go start this company on your own, which, you know, you could maybe take a guess that they never did. And that tech and that, you know, product never got anywhere. And so, you know, we have the ability to I mean, unfortunately, we had to, you know, we couldn't bypass that TTO. And so we had to go find collaborations partners elsewhere. But then again, we could go find collaboration partners elsewhere. So that was, you know, in some ways, we were happy about that, although we were very, very sad that that initial collaboration didn't work out. So with that, I will stop sharing, and I think that was it for me, and I'm looking forward to the panel discussion later.
Thank you so much, Anita. Yeah, very interesting reflections, and we'll pick up on some of them during the panel discussion later. The next speaker is well known by everyone in the academic machine learning community and also far outside the academic circles. Robert Jenssen is a professor at the UiT, the Arctic University of Norway, where he heads the machine learning group. He is also leader of the new Center for Research-Based Innovation, Visual Intelligence, which is a Center for Research-Based Innovation in AI. NORA has been fortunate to collaborate with Robert on several occasions, and we very much appreciate your contributions, Robert. Today, Robert will have a talk titled Research-Driven Innovation at the UET Machine Learning Group and at the new SFI Visual Intelligence.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfectly good. Well, I think you had a little bit, maybe too much gunpowder in your introduction class, but thank you very much. Very, very happy to be here, and thank you so much for the introduction and the invitation. It was very interesting to hear the two previous speakers, Anita and Morten. Looking forward to the panel discussion. I was thinking about that picture you showed, class, of Morten. Maybe it was not real, but fake, generated by some GAN or something. But we can let Morten answer that later on. So, from the perspective of an academic research group at UiT, the Arctic University of Norway in Tromsø, I'd like to share some experiences on collaboration with industry and companies for research-driven innovation, and also mention a little bit about plans for a new Center for Research-Based Innovation, so a so-called SFI, which is called Visual Intelligence. So first of all, just a little bit of a background to our research group here at UiT. So we've been growing quite a lot over the last few years, attracting funding, both on very basic research projects, going deep into the math and stuff like that. For instance, 3PRO projects from the Research Council of Norway, but also pushing the spectrum towards innovation projects and very applied research, funding from the IKT Plus program in the Research Council of Norway, and also H2020 innovation projects like the so-called Eurostars program together with companies. So we try to find a balance to sort of do basic research, publish, for instance, European Conference on Computer Vision recently, IEEE transactions on pattern analysis and machine intelligence, but to use this foundation to also work together with industry, companies, very applied research. And for us, it's very important that the industry research feeds challenges that we need to go into on the basic research side and vice versa. So these two things, they're really coupled and they go together. So for us, in several projects, we work very closely with industry. And these industrial partners were at some point, many of them startups. Maybe now they're a little bit more mature in the sense of being able to move into industry PhD projects together with us as an academic group. But at some point, these were also startup companies. So I think that's an important aspect. And for us, as I mentioned, both basic and applied research is important in this context, and also for these companies that we collaborate with. Because in some cases, basic research, so going into the math, statistics, machine learning, can in some cases have a relatively short path to innovations, like product innovations for these companies, or service innovations for companies, or public institutions like hospitals, for instance, or to lay a groundwork for such innovations to provide a basis that the company can then move on with in order to create innovations. So we are engaged in projects like this in our group, and I would like to mention briefly 3 such projects, but there are some more. So first of all, I'll mention a very successful, I think, from our perspective as an academic group, but also I hope from the perspective of the company, which is eSmart Systems, a company based out of Halden, not so far from Oslo in Norway. But also with Santander Consumer Bank, which is a very, very big institution, and also a European project together with a company called Health Plus AI. eSmart Systems, founded in 2013, so some years in operation. Health Plus AI founded in 2017, so more of a recent company. So together with eSmart Systems, and basically funded over the Research Council of Norway and eSmart Systems through this tool of an industry PhD project. Actually, not just one in our case, we're now starting a second one together with eSmart Systems. The background is to monitor the power lines in Norway. So basically from drones, taking pictures live of the power lines, and the task is to automatically, as much as possible, monitor these power lines. So to figure out, is everything okay with the power lines, with the poles, the masts, the insulators, and so on. Any errors, any woodpecker pecking a hole in the mast. And we do all this basically from the viewpoint of convolutional neural networks. And the aim of this project to begin with is not to revolutionize the theory behind convolutional neural networks and the math behind those kind of systems, but to make it work. So that means gather lots of data, engineer solutions, trial, errors. And in our case, this led to what we call a multi-stage pipeline, as opposed to more like an off-the-shelf solution. So where we've created a system based on deep learning that has an ability to sort of zoom in to the bigger part of the object first, so in this case, the mast, and then zoom more into the details like the insulators. And we have a much better object recognition and localization performance compared to the kind of the baseline model. But from this very applied project, several research challenges arose, like unbalanced classes. So we have much more of a certain type of insulator compared to another type of insulator. Limited training data available. How to utilize synthetic data, like images that we create. So lots of research challenges then arose, and this industrial project also took a very basic research turn. So we published also quite theoretical works out of this project. For instance, we've been working on the problem of trying to detect the lines themselves, so the power lines, for navigation for the drone, for instance. And then we actually, in collaboration with a company called Nordic Media Lab that generates synthetic data like this, create a totally new system. Again, the base is convolutional neural networks, but the aim from our point of view is to find the power lines themselves in a very, very fast way, such that we don't have to wait. We can navigate the drone, that's the end goal at least, in real time. So we're very close to real time now. So this is an example of very applied industrial research project, research challenges arising, new problems arising, develop a new system. So this so-called LSNet is a new system that we published in a journal, or it's very close to publishing, where we describe the system, but of course the company implement this system, goes directly into their products. Another example, a little bit different, because now we're talking about Santander Consumer Bank, which is enormous, have lots of money. So for them, it's easier to fund industrial projects like this, but still very, very interesting from our point of view as an academic group, and also I hope from the viewpoint of Santander Consumer Bank. So now the issue is to find customers that sort of group together according to certain characteristics. We do this by so-called generative models, so neural networks also, but statistically based. We develop new methods for what's called reject inference, and we also develop new methods to basically exploit data about customers in the bank before loan is approved or rejected, and also after loan is accepted for some of these customers. So totally new methodology, but for value of the bank, at least in the long run. Also, a European project, the so-called Eurostars program. So we were contacted by a company in the Netherlands called Health+AI. They became aware of our activities. We worked a lot in the healthcare domain. And this Eurostars project is such that it's very, very applied. The company is supposed to basically enhance the product, but at the same time, there's a research component where academic groups are involved, where we facilitate for the company to sort of innovate their product, but at the same time, there are also publications and basic research. I mentioned this new Center for Research-Driven Innovation. It's called Visual Intelligence. It's all about complex imagery to inference, extract knowledge from various types of images in the health domain, energy, the marine sciences, Earth observation, and so on. This is just starting. And I'm really hopeful that together with our partners, and you can see some of them here, Equinor, for instance, GE Wingmed, and our research partners at the University of Oslo and the Norwegian Computing Central, that we will be able to facilitate research to drive innovations for our partners and also beyond. And we want to collaborate with NORA as much as we can on this initiative. And I just wanted like a sneak peek, because of course we hope that researchers in our center will, you know, take ideas, research, and maybe start companies on their own. Lars Ailo Bongo, that you met before, is very central in this new center. He has experience with starting companies, and we hope that more companies will be established. And maybe explainable AI will be one of the topics where new ideas can come to life. And I just wanted to end this small presentation, if I can make it work, with a tiny like sneak peek of a test video we have been trying to develop for the new center. Let's see if it works. So this kind of work is also related to ethics, AI, and safety critical domains, things that we really need to take seriously when we move on in this field. Thank you.
Thank you so much for yet another great talk, Robert. I'm also really excited about your AI application into healthcare, as you know. I can also inform you all that Robert had another great talk earlier this year in NORA's Friday afternoon webinars. You will find that also on our web pages. That was about the collaboration with eSmart Systems and the drone project. When it comes to commercializing research and technological development, the US is a leading nation within the AI race. We also know that US and American investors are interested in the Norwegian AI landscape and are following our development. It is therefore a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Eirin Dyrnes from Innovation Norway. More specifically, Gro is the Regional Director for Innovation Norway, San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Her talk is titled Commercialization R&D, the Silicon Valley Way.
Hello, everybody, and good morning, I would have to say. I know it's good afternoon for you guys, but I got up really early to join this kickoff, and I'm really glad I did, because it's been incredibly inspirational for me to listen into all of the other speakers and to follow what you're doing back in Norway, because what you're doing is so important. And first of all, Klaus, congrats with the new initiative. And I will come back to why this is so important and why I'm so excited about this. But first of all, say that obviously AI is a general purpose technology, and being a little bit brainwashed by Silicon Valley, I think we can only look back not too long back into history and remind ourselves that people were skeptical when internet was introduced, saying it might go over. But going forward, I truly believe that we will not talk about companies being based on AI, because it's obvious. If you are to bring value to the market, if you are to solve the biggest challenges we have going forward, you have to use AI. I don't think I will bring much new to the table, but hopefully my speak can give a little bit of a roundup to the discussion that we've had so far. And so I may disappoint those of you who are expecting a rapid introduction to how to commercialize R&D, because I am not a successful researcher, I'm not a successful entrepreneur. But as the head of Innovation Norway and Americas, I have seen many successful researchers, many successful entrepreneurs, many successful leaders, but also many who struggle, but who follow their passion. And so I will share what I see and where I see Silicon Valley stands out. And I think, first of all, it's worth asking, is this really where it happens? This is a picture of Silicon Valley some weeks ago. It was published in E24, Norwegian newspaper, and they actually have a really good series on Silicon Valley these days. So I recommend you to follow that series of articles. And I want to quote a very successful Norwegian entrepreneur called Dyrnes, who came to the area in the beginning of the 2000s and was driving up and down the highway, this very highway that you see here, asking himself, where is Silicon Valley? Where is this amazing innovation ecosystem? And obviously we can all understand why he was asking himself, because it doesn't look like it. But if we look at the numbers, yes, this is really where it happens. As you can see, 45% of all seed capital, early stage capital, venture capital in the US market is invested in the Bay Area. So people basically, or projects, good ideas, basically swim in money. And as we know, there are intelligent people all over the place, but these intelligent people need to have a framework around them and incentives and capital enough to scale. And as we also can see from this overview from PitchBook, the main universities in the Bay Area, being Stanford and Berkeley, they spin out so many more companies each year than any other university across the US. And they raise more capital than any other universities. Not the universities themselves, but the spin-outs out of those universities. So yes, apparently this is where it happens. If we compare this to Norway, I would love to ask the question to you, but you can think yourself, if we see that in Bay Area, the average inhabitant raise about 5,000 US dollars a year, and compare that to Norway, what would the number be? 5,000 per capita in Bay Area per year. In Norway, the number is 17. So obviously there is something about the scale. And if we were looking at founded companies every year and capital raised from spin-outs, you would get pretty much the same order of magnitude. So why is Silicon Valley such a hotspot? Well, one of them is that Silicon Valley is a complete ecosystem. And the universities have an incredibly important role in this because they recruit talent, they attract talent from all over the world, not only from the regions around. So the best talent interested in some specific topics come to the area. And when they spend time in these universities, they find role models among their professors, among other students, among companies in the area having been spun out of these universities, such as, for example, Google. So they have an ambition to go to Stanford, Berkeley, etc. Then they have an ambition to start working for Google. And a couple of years later, they have an ambition to start the next Google. And then a couple of years later, they have an ambition to invest in the new Google. And so the ecosystem basically fuels each other. And this is what we need to try and create in Norway as well. And I know this is what you try to create through both NORA.startup, and also through the collaboration with all the universities that you have in the NORA network. So I would say make sure to secure venture capital as part of that ecosystem, as well as other support functions. And I think you're really doing a great job in that already. So the next why, another thing is to mention among the techies among you that we tend to point to Moore's law and to Metcalfe's law in order to explain how we can make scalable and valuable solutions. However, it was recently pointed out that Moore's law is dead. It goes much faster. And I think also my point in saying that it's dead is not only to point out that it's going much faster than what Moore originally said, but also that this does not only have to do with technical, for example, products or networks, it also have to do with human network. So if you apply Metcalfe's law to human networks, you get an idea of why relations are so important. And this is what Silicon Valley is incredibly skilled at. Not the technology side. The Norwegian ecosystem is probably at the very same level from a technical point of view. But from a relationship point of view, Silicon Valley is incredible. And I think that is something that we as Norwegians need to look into, not only look at he or she is a great networker, but why and how do we create win-win situations among the players in this ecosystem. The second reason why Silicon Valley is where it happens is that as an economist, I would say, and you may disagree with me, that a technology or a patent, for example, does not have a value until it reaches a market and somebody is willing to pay for it. And as the guru of Silicon Valley says, there are no facts inside the building, so get outside and evaluate, pilot, ideate, prototype, test, and not to mention empathize with your customer. Understand your customer, understand the need in the market. And what we typically see when we work with spin-outs from research is that they have an amazing technology, but it is not identified what is the best functional area. So the need and the challenge between starting as most startups start with understanding a need in the market, while most research startups start with an amazing technology and need to find a need that they can solve with that technology. So it's a little bit a different angle into it, and it adds a challenge, and it also adds the need to understand how this technology can be used to fill a value in the market, either financially or, more importantly, for society. And I would say the starting of Silicon Valley, or one of the milestones of the history of Silicon Valley, is a good example of this. It is about DARPA, the Research Council for the Defense Industry, who announced some big challenges that they needed to solve. And these challenges were won by, the bids were won by research institutes in Silicon Valley, namely Stanford Research Institute. And they developed a solution to a need in the defense industry. Having done that, though, they saw that this is an amazing innovation. It helps people, it solves problems. How can we use that in society? And that is what we today call dual use, and that we in Innovation Norway, together with, for example, FFI in Norway, work closely with in order to identify how can governments and the defense industry now learn from private industry, because currently, in the US at least, more is invested in the private industry than in the defense industry. So when the equation changed, or the balance point changed, currently it's important for the government initiatives to learn from industry and not primarily vice versa. And so to come to a situation like that, we always need to look for dual use in order to bring value to the market. And so I would say the third thing is it's all about the people. And you will hear investors say this all the time here in Silicon Valley. It's all about the people. And in the end, you kind of get a little bit tired of it, because of course it's all about the people. And people are not smarter in Silicon Valley than in Norway. Definitely not. But maybe they are incentivized in a way that enable them to bring these values, these research values, to the market. And I would encourage you there to look for a balance between who has the rights to a research result or an IP, and who and how can you enable the founding team to be passionate. And that can have to do with, for example, establishing complementary teams to let the researcher spend time on a startup because it's a passion probably to see this happen in real life, but also because there is an upside, both of seeing the problem solved, but also a financial upside. And I would like to share a story there, an example of the world's top-rated venture capital firm called Andreessen Horowitz. Some years back, they started a collaboration with a professor at Stanford He ran a lab in simulation and AI. His name is Vijay Pandey, and Andreessen Horowitz employed Vijay Pandey 4 days a week to establish their biotech fund. And as he himself said, he started out with $300 million to invest in early stage biotech and AI. Biotech meets health startups. And so it was important to enable or to set up a fund that would give him the opportunity also to fail, which I think is fascinating. It says something about the scale again. But my point is, he said basically, I'm working 4 days a week as a partner in Andreessen Horowitz. I'm working 1 day a week as a professor at Stanford, as the head of this simulation lab. And then in the weekend, I think. And I think it's great that they give him the opportunity to think, because people like that certainly needs to be given that opportunity. But also people like that needs to be incentivized to bring the research results out into the real world. So coming back to NORA and quoting NVIDIA's message about national AI basics, they say you need an AI strategy. Yes, check, we have that. Norway has that. We need AI policy and laws. I think Norway has proved through, for example, the electrification game that we're into, that we are willing to, our government is willing to push boundaries through policies and laws. An AI ecosystem, do we have that? NORA is certainly trying. And last but not least, AI infrastructure. And sitting here in Silicon Valley, it is very clear that few countries are positioned like Norway with regards to the infrastructure, where we have both data, compute power, ability to move data really fast, and smart people. And so I would say it stands on the AI ecosystem and our ability to support the Norwegian ecosystem in developing. And with that, I want to end and say thank you so much. Innovation Norway, we have several programs both to support companies to scale, to take an idea from research result together with Research Council, and to bring that to market, to validate and bring dual use into works, to scale up startups, and also to incentivize collaboration between startups, universities, and corporates, and to incentivize collaboration between government units and companies. So with that, please reach out if you want to discuss your projects with us, and we will do our very best to be helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gro, for an excellent talk. And we're certainly working on the AI ecosystem, as you mentioned. And I hope we will contribute strongly to that. I'm also sure we can draw some good inspiration from the Bay Area, and also that we will see some good collaborations within AI between Norway and US in the years to come. I think we had scheduled a coffee break, but I think we will skip that. Digital coffee breaks are a bit boring anyway, and we should stop this kickoff at 5 as planned. So I will just ask all speakers to turn on their camera, and I think we will then go straight into the panel discussion. So all speakers except Morten Irgens will attend the panel discussion. That means Morten, Goodwin, Anita Schjøll Brede, Robert Jenssen, and Eirin Dyrnes. If you have questions for Freya Jørgensen, I'm sure also she will be here to answer those. The discussions will be based on the questions. I see we have several questions already, the questions from the Q&A button, and please also send in more questions to our speakers. I think I will just pick up on some of the points from Gro. You can all just answer if you feel like, but the first one I will start on Morten Goodwin. So Morten, how should we proceed to achieve good collaborations between startup companies, the business community and academia within NORA.startup now? What should be the next steps?
Okay, that's a challenging question to start with, but I'll be happy to answer, and I hope some from the other side, as it was mentioned here, will also try to answer the same, because it's interesting to see how companies will look at that. So for me, as a researcher in academia, it's all about getting the projects, which means getting resources to help in the research I'm doing. So in practice, this often means applying for projects through NFR or Innovation Norway or other places, EU maybe, so that we can get postdocs, researchers, and PhDs. Because much of the research for someone as an associate professor or professor is the hands-on research you do with PhDs, postdocs, and other students. So as a researcher, sometimes you sit alone and do the research, but mostly it's a leadership work, collaborative work with a lot of people, and funding helps a lot. And so whenever I meet a company, I always say, so maybe we should fund something together, and that helps a lot. So the answer is money.
And being positive, I think, then.
Or maybe, yeah.
You have anything to fill out that, Robert, also from academia?
So from the academic viewpoint, of course, I agree with Morten, but at the same time, there's something about how to facilitate these projects. So how do we actually get these joint projects somehow? And in Norway, there are some opportunities within the Norwegian Research Council, but I think one thing we have really been missing is a forum like this, actually, because for me, for instance, even though in our research group we work with many companies, they are for the most part established, relatively big, and the smaller companies, which I presume most of the startups are, we're not that often in touch with. So it's sort of also something about knowing about each other and getting in touch. So I think a good first starting point is actually what you're now organizing. And the steps further is not so easy to identify, because very often it boils down to funding, as Morten says. So how to obtain this funding? It's not so easy. I wish I had some answers, but I think of course, from the government, Norwegian Research Council point of view, I think, to my understanding at least, that there have been things happening over the last few years to the better. So, but not good enough, obviously. So let's see if we can figure something out during this discussion.
Yeah, maybe Gro can fill in something about the funding part.
Yes, I with the possibility to become really unpopular, I would have to say that I think the biggest challenge is to secure that somebody with massive amounts of capital is interested in solving the challenge. And obviously very early on in the research process, but also with basic research, you certainly need the government funding. But the closer you get to being able to prove that this technology can actually solve a need for somebody, the more important it is to connect with that specific body. Because I see from the chat that somebody is asking who should own the AI model after a collaboration. And from a market perspective, the answer is, sorry to say, very clear. The company needs to own that model, because that's where the value lies. And that's what investors are willing to pay for. That's what the stock exchange, the people trading, that's what they are willing to pay for. And so if Anita is not owning that model or the patent that you develop together, she will not raise funding. She may raise the initial stages of funding, but not later on. And so there is no law saying that the university needs to take a certain percentage. I mean, yes, the university or the research institute certainly owns the rights, but there needs to be a balance there to incentivize both the university and the people who will bring this result into the market. I don't know if that was an answer, but
yeah, yes, absolutely.
That's my thinking.
I would also like to hear Anita's view on how did you actually raise funding? What was difficult? What was the challenges? How did you proceed?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, so we have a mix between private and public, as in investors, both angel investors and a couple of more kind of established funds, but it's still early stage. So we're at what's called seed stage. We're not at Series A yet. We hope to raise Series A next year, which is 5 years is a long time, but that's what happens when you're a deep tech startup. It takes a lot more time to get to a place where you can start scaling up your products and really start making money off of it. So that's the timeline. But so we've raised a mix between the two. We also, as I said, have research funding. We actually ended up getting research funding on our own from BO, not with an established academic partner. We have room for academic partners if someone wants to join us with that funding, which is a unique situation that we actually have the funding already, and we might pull in some academic institutions for it. But no, so that's kind of our approach to it. And I think there's a tricky chicken and egg situation, right? If the first question you get when you approach an academic institution is, well, is there funding? Then, you have to start having the dialogue first. And so I think this forum and other forums, like, how can we get to know each other, to know that we want to work together, we have the same goal, and then look at funding opportunities, or simply look at, is there something small we can do to test our hypothesis and start developing this and see if we can actually get the commercial traction going so that generating revenue can secure the funding as well. But I don't think a lot of academic institutions has the opportunity to do that the way they're structured today. And we can go into talking about whether the whole academic model is in need for a change, but that would be outside of the scope for today. But I think I think having different ways to think about it is important. On the other hand, in Norway, we are lucky, as Morten talked, the first speaker talked about today, which is about, that there is a lot of research funding. There is a lot of business funding as well, not just on the research side, but also from Innovation Norway, for example, where a lot is not related to research.
Just to linger a little bit on this, on the academic model, Anita, a question also from Gustavo, my lawyer. One of the problems in collaborating with private companies involves the conflict of interest. Many companies want to withhold data, model, right to publish, and sometimes even hire the PhD student before it finishes the product. How do you propose avoiding these problems? Let's start with Anita again, and we can go around the table.
Yeah. So I might not be the perfect startup representative in that we are a startup with a double or triple, if you like, bottom line. We are a for impact startup as well as a for-profit startup. Deliberately so, all of our investors are impact investors, which means we've we've very deliberately said that we are out to make the world a better place, which I know a lot of startups say. We actually mean it, and we make decisions accordingly. So, for example, everything we publish open access, for example, and we do publish. So one of our kind of first algorithms that I mentioned in my talk earlier, this wisdom metric, we did publish it open access, and we're not like keeping all of our secret. Some of the data sets, yes, definitely we are, and we have to have some secrets in order to actually have something to sell and make money on, so that we can do more research. But we're a little bit of a different creature. It is definitely a concern with some companies that want to, keep everything and not share openly.
Morten, do you have some comments to this?
Sure. So it sounds like a delight to collaborate with Anita, because I've experienced the exact opposite. So that some companies did not really understand the need for academic people to publish and make this available. And some of our collaboration have stranded for that reason. And then we had some lessons learned and make that very clear from the start, the difference there. And it's also very clear for us who owns the model, because that is always the company. And same as who manages the model and the AI system after the PhD or postdoc or collaboration is finished, that is also the company. Because the idea is for the company to have that type of understanding and resources. So one way that we ensure this came from us, from the idea that, or from a requirement for something called the industrial PhD, nærings-PhD. And in those cases, when you get that funding from Research Council, you're forced for the person to be half of the time in academia, no, 1/3 of the time in academia and 1/3 of the time in the company, and 1/3 you can choose. So that, and we try to do that with other industrial collaborations as well, meaning that if there's a PhD that is funded through a BIA project, for example, that he or she spends some time in the company to really understand the need from the company's point of view, not only like get this like an academic exercise. So I think it's a tough question who owns the data and presents the data and publishes of the data. And my experience is that if you make it clear in the beginning, before and when you're still friends, so that when you're not so much friends later, it's already clear. That's my idea.
Do you have any comments to how to make this goal or value alignment we talk about in AI, Robert? Value alignment between these different goals.
Well, it is tricky and potential for a sort of a clash. But I think that as long as you sort of declare your background into the project and open about that, and maybe have deals that if you see kind of specific results come out of this joint research project that goes directly into commercialization, then you kind of take it outside of the research project and sort of write like a deal on the outside of the research project with the company and the university. At least in our case, we haven't really had these problems so far, but of course I can't guarantee that it would not arise, but I definitely see that it's a landscape which is a bit fussy. So for instance, if there's a master student involved, the master student owns the research. If there's a PhD student involved, it's an employee of the university. And then, like me, I'm also an employee of the university, then the university has certain rights. So there are some things that are not always so easy. But like Morten said, we've also had good experience with the industry PhD formalism, but still you have this IPR thing in the background. I mean, no matter how you organize it, which I don't think is solved. So it's like an issue which is always there.
Do you have any comments to this, Gro? I mean, in the Bay Area, they certainly managed to be successful on this in some sense. So do you have any experience in that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would have to say that it's very easy for me to have opinions about this because I'm not part of the equation. So it's always very easy to recommend when you don't have to do it yourself, right? But I would say we can try and structure ourselves kind of away from the problem, or try and solve it through processes and rules and regulations and policies and all about that. But honestly, I believe that it can all actually be solved through good relations, good communication, and an intent to understand the KPIs of the other person and try and create the win-win relationships. So for Anita, for example, when she collaborates with Robert, that she will, understand what is it that you need to get out of this relationship, and vice versa. And I think the best way to go about that is actually to identify some role model examples. Where did this really work, and why did it work? And I know there are many, we've worked with several already. Like, why did Kahoot become such a commercial or scaling company, commercial success, hopefully in the future, but how did they go about that? Why did it happen? And then try and replicate that.
Thank you, Gro. Unfortunately, time is running fast. I would love to stay here for an hour or two more, but we'll soon have to end this session. Just a last maybe question to Gro then. What should NORA.startup now do to create this ecosystem that we were talking about, that they are so good at in the Bay Area, for example? What should be our next tasks or next mission to do?
I think what you're already doing is a very good first step in gathering people who complement each other around the same table, which you obviously do in the steering group. I'm very impressed by that, so congratulations on that, and I'm eager to see what will come out of it. I think the second step is to find a way to prove that what you do work really fast, and not to kind of be too theoretical about it. So is there a specific need where you can now establish, in industry, for example, or in government, where you can curate a collaboration and get the results to the table really fast? I think that's a way to go about it, but that's just my humble opinion, and I'm sure you're much more fit to see what needs to be done yourself, but from an outside perspective, certainly.
I truly agree on that. We should get our hands dirty and find the problems and solve the problems, not only develop the technology without any problems to solve. So I think that should be a focus. I have to wrap up now. I will thank all the speakers. It was a great kickoff and very many interesting thoughts and ideas and reflections. So thank you so much. And I'm also confident that in the years to come, NORA.startup will, I think we will nurture more AI innovations in the universities. And I think you will see more startups coming out of the universities and the research institutes. I'm also confident that a tighter collaboration between academia and already existing startup companies will strengthen both the startups and the research community. So we will try to create this ecosystem, Gro, that you were talking about. And this will be the big task for the future years, I think. And with this, I think I will just say thank you again and conclude today's kickoff. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.